So what did you find in your research? Just talk about some of the findings that you came across.
Well, one of the first things I found is that fluoride's a poison. And that's why they claim it works. And well, you know, why don't you brush your teeth with arsenic? That's a poison too. Yeah, like, is that stupid? And so, but it's a cumulative poison. So once you get it in your body, you can't get it back out. So it accumulates in the bones, and so you end up with all kinds of, you know, joint and arthritic kind of problems. So you end up with fluoride accumulated in tissues, soft tissues that are not supposed to be calcified, makes them calcify. So you end up with painful ligaments, and so pain is one of the principal symptoms of fluoride overdose. Well, who wants that?
If you ask most dentists and ask them what they're putting in the water, most dentists would say sodium fluoride, pharmaceutical sodium fluoride, the same stuff that is in toothpaste.
They have absolutely no idea that it's, in 9 out of 10 cases, hydrofluorosilicic acid, and that hydrofluorosilicic acid is a waste product for the phosphate industry.
This has come about because for maybe 100 years, the phosphate fertilizer industry put out 2 very, very poisonous gases into the environment, hydrogen fluoride and silicon tetrafluoride. Eventually, they were required to capture those, and they did it with a wet spray, water, and that water converts these 2 very toxic gases into hexafluorosilicic acid. And it's this scrubbing liquor, which is about 25% strong, is put into tanker trucks, driven around the country, and added to our drinking water.
If this stuff goes out the stack, it's an air pollutant. If it goes directly into the water supply, if they take that scrubber liquor and dump it into the local river, it's a water pollutant. But if they put it into a tank wagon and sell it to somebody, a water authority, like magic, it's not a pollutant. And they can take that then to your drinking water supply and not discharge it into your river. They discharge it directly into your drinking water supply, slowly bleed it in, and as magic, it's no longer a toxic pollutant. It's now what's called a product.
Now, Dr. Burke, your research shows that if all of the United States had been fluoridated, that would mean about 70,000 extra deaths because of cancer per annum. Those are remarkable, impressive, and in fact rather disquieting figures. Could you shortly describe your research in this field and what results did you get from it?
Yes. The 70,000, of course, would represent 1/5 of all the cancer deaths in the United States, twice as many from breast cancer in women, and twice as many as from lung cancer in man. Our studies involve comparing the deaths of all persons in the 10 largest fluoridated cities of the United States with the 10 largest non-fluoridated cities in the United States year by year. And we obtained a very remarkable curve, which you can see here perhaps. Here is the fluoridated, and here is the non-fluoridated set of 10 cities each. Here's where the fluoridation started, and before this time, both sets of cities were identical. But no sooner had fluoridation started than this curve began to go up, the deaths began to increase, so that this effect occurs very promptly within 1, 2, or 5 years.
Now this, sir, is conclusive evidence that fluor kills because of cancer.
It is one of the most conclusive bits of scientific and biological evidence that I have come across in my 50 years in the field of cancer research.
This film itself is presented here only to show that mammalian cells in tissue cultures can be and are damaged by fluorides, and some even killed when their contact with sodium fluoride is in the concentration of 1 part in 30 million. And we do have photographic records showing almost the same thing in 1 part in 60 million. Poisonous sodium fluoride in these concentrations may not be toxic enough to kill the cells or to destroy an organ or possibly the individual himself. Nevertheless, in human bodies, such poisons are subtle, insidious, and if prolonged over months and years, as in this case where fluoridated water is being used, chronic disorders and upsets of function in one or more of the vital organs may ensue.
Would this then, in your opinion, be the end of fluor in water, in drinking water?
It should be the end, and in the United States, it should so be the end by federal law known as the Delaney Amendment, which says that anything found to induce cancer in man or animals cannot be legally put into the food or drink of man or animals. And so, and this is all less than 1 year old, so that it entirely changes any previous ideas of fluoridation that anyone may have had, because this is the first real indication of an important effect.
Where did the connection come that fluoride helps oral health? I mean, where did that start from?
You got a couple hours?
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a bold-faced lie. Is it in communities that had factories that leaked fluoride, smelting any kind of metal, zinc, steel, the children that were living downwind of those factories developed dental fluorosis from the airborne fluorides. Anytime you smelt a metal, you end up with airborne pollution, at least you did before the Environmental Protection Agency required them to clean it up. And so industry is constantly under pressure to stop poisoning the children with their pollution and stuff like that. So they started talking about how good it was. And it never was good. It was just their excuse for saying, oh, it's okay for the children to have spotted teeth because they're really healthy. No, that's not true. Children with dental fluorosis are more likely to have tooth decay. They're more likely to have arthritis and old age. They're more likely to have bone fractures. They're more likely to have a whole host of illnesses that are related to excess fluoride intake. Fluoride's not a nutrient, it's a poison. So clearly, when you begin to look carefully at these children that have been overexposed with fluoride, they suffer from all the diseases that science would predict. It's insane to recommend that children swallow fluoride. I mean, it actually causes gum disease. Dental fluorosis is increased tooth decay. It's not a beneficial element in any way, shape, or form. It's just got a huge marketing campaign on it. It's not beneficial at all. The definition of dental fluorosis is the first outward visible sign of fluoride overdose in children. And what it is that the fluoride molecule goes in and poisons the enzymes that are making the teeth. So you end up, instead of a beautiful opalescent enamel, you end up with porous enamel that's white and chalky, easy to break, and picks up stain. So everybody ends up, going to the store and getting their teeth bleached because they end up with brown spots on their teeth. Well, that's not tooth decay. That's porous enamel caused because the body did not make normal enamel. Well, you got to be a dentist to believe you can give a kid a poison and it makes the teeth look funny, and that's the only organ that's damaged.
This, you see, amounts to public murder on a grand scale. It is a public crime, it would be, to put fluoride in the drinking water of people.
Now, the children of this cameraman and mine, sir, take fluor. Should we stop this immediately?
Well, in my opinion, if they were my children, they would not take it anymore. I can only recommend for myself, but I would suggest to you that they stop it.
When you drink fluoridated water, it creates what's called calcium phosphate crystals. Let's talk about the pineal gland. And I don't like talking about the pineal gland, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because so many people talk about the pineal gland, but I never hear the word endocrine come out their mouth. Why doesn't the endocrine system get put forth? Because the endocrine system is connected to what? Your sexual drive. Everyone says the pineal gland this, the pineal gland that. In space, meditation, metaphysics, But we always afraid to talk about sex. But I'm gonna tell you this, if your pineal gland is calcified, it affects your libido. So the endocrine system, what that does, it collects or produces hormones and regulates your metabolism and deals with growth and development. And then also what? It also deals with your sexual drive. Pineal calcification or calcium phosphate crystallization is a disease and is happening to our children younger and younger and younger. Fluoride creates a calcium phosphate crystallization of the gland. And because a lot of the baby food has fluoridated water in there, the attack is already on. And the first thing to get attacked when fluoride hits the system, it shoots straight to the pineal gland and in turn affects the endocrine system.
Fluoride, one of the most pernicious toxins in your water supply. What are the downsides? Well, it displaces iodine from your thyroid, and if you're a woman, you're already at high risk for hypothyroidism, and this is going to make it even worse. So it's a really serious issue, and it could also interfere. It's a metabolic mitochondrial toxin, so it will sabotage your mitochondria's ability to create cellular energy in the form of ATP. The issue is not should someone use fluoride or not. I personally believe that that is a very foolish, uninformed choice to use fluoride in any way, topically or systemically, but certainly systemically. But to dictate that everyone in your community has to get it and get it in doses that is not even dose appropriate for the weight is just medically irresponsible.
Yeah,
just no question. It's a crime. It's a crime against humanity.
It is. It's a toxic crime against humanity. And so we're getting too much fluoride. It's probably not beneficial. And it's causing serious problems to the developing brain. When? That's one of the questions we don't know. Is it causing it genetically before conception? Is it causing it while the baby is brain is being developed in utero? Is it being caused afterwards, or is it all of those situations? We don't know, but we do know that it's lowering IQ.
Okay, I couldn't agree more, but Bill, it's even worse than that, because not only does fluoride responsible for all the items that you mentioned, but hardly any health professional studies molecular biology. They are beyond clueless about how the mitochondria work. And once you understand that and realize that fluoride is a mitochondrial poison, not only does it contribute to these problems, but it's contributed to cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, neurodegenerative disease, and we have a tsunami of Alzheimer's coming.
Well, what are they supposed to do? Abandon the water supply? The answer to that question is yes. They must abandon the water supply.